like to welcome some entrepreneurs within the haunt industry. Not only do they have their own company called Homegrown Bones, but their yard display has won awards in their very haunt-populated town of Oak Lawn. Please welcome to the Voodoo Podcast, Mike Lesh and Sara Janiszewski. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing, brother? Thanks for having us on here, man.
Absolutely. I saw you guys at MHC, and I saw that there was no booth this year, and we're going to get into that. But I knew I had to get you guys on. But let's go back to the beginning. When did you both begin your love for Halloween and haunting, and how long after were you decorating at Haunted Barrens, Oak Lawn?
We've been decorating here for about 10 years now. This guy was supposed to be born on Halloween, but he came 12 days late.
It's my mom's
fault. So that's where his love of Halloween came from. My parents got married on Halloween.
Right.
Oh, wow. This is crazy.
I've been infatuated with Halloween since birth. So both of us were in 1982. She's a couple of months before me. She's August, which is why we usually start in August, because it just... after the onslaught of joining Chicago Haunt Builders in 14 and then loving taking over, her parents' house and then adapting the community to the love of Halloween, sharing ideas.
We started out as a teeny tiny little, and now we just have this huge display.
Right.
That's awesome. That's so wild because, so I'm a November birthday too. I'm way later. I'm the 25th. So it wasn't like I was due on Halloween or anything, but my parents got married on Halloween. And they're now divorced, and the signs were written on the wall because it rained, snowed, sleeted, and hailed on their wedding day. And it was Halloween. So it's like, I mean...
Well, rain is supposed to be good luck, but...
Right, yeah. And, the masks, I guess, weren't scary enough. It was the marriage that was, so...
Yeah.
My mom's brother actually dressed as a gorilla at the reception.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to talk about how you guys are set up early. I thought it might have been for the, I heard on the grapevine that it might have been for the Great Halloween Fright Fight, at least this past year. But how early do you...
We've never done that. We actually live on we have a school down the block. So the kids start walking to school and they come and see it and they're like, they're already starting.
Yeah.
We got to walk every day. And we get the people that stop. They're
parks,
like, we have, the kids are like, it's not our way to school, but can we just go this way so we can see the house before we go to school?
Right.
Oh,
and then they have to do the same thing when they get out of school to see if anything changed from the morning.
Right.
They're picking out all the differences. Yeah.
At 8:30, and the kids are screaming outside the window, and I'm out there on one of my days off, just touching up something or redoing something or adding something. They take note. So you start early because there's time that is lost by the public that they want it. So we give it to them. So
that's nice enough. I mean, I guess so. The village and the neighbors are all cool with it then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The village does not care.
Well, the considering thing is we own the haunt, we own the home and the haunt, so there's no HOAs. So we could do kind of basically anything we want.
We don't have to worry about...
We take hard advantage of that.
We have to wait for anybody to say it's okay or anything, so...
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure by now you guys are aware of the lore associated with Oak Lawn, kind of that Burbank area, dating back to the early 2000s, and how the torch has kind of been passed even to today. Have either of you gotten the chance to see some of the OG haunts, such as like Mayhem on Mansfield, Hell's Corner, Boneyard, Devil's Playground, or more?
We've actually none of those. We've heard about them.
We've done Loretta Cemetery in Hometown. We've done them because my aunt lives behind them.
Right, and they're pretty well known because it's usually.
I've done Spirits on Throat since I was a kid because it was always so much fun. And then Eric comes here all the time.
Yeah, we got the pleasure of having him over so many times. He was taking pictures and writing a piece that. I don't know if it got out yet or not. And then he actually signed one of his posters that I bought on his property the day after here. And I pulled it out and he signed it for me in front of the home, and it was like, there's people spectating while he's signing an autograph for me. So it was just like a, back and forth, win-win, but he's a sweet guy. We love Eric. He's a great dude.
But
He's
like
the best.
when you have your own home haunt, it's hard to try to go to see other places.
Everybody knows that.
Right. Yeah, and you guys are psychic.
Leave ours to go and see anybody else's. So
you guys are psychic. That was going to be my question: is if you get to collab, because there's a lot by you even still today, as you mentioned, Loretto Cemetery and Eric, of course, former guest of the show with Spirits on Sprout, and that's awesome. But you also have like Kildare Haunted City near you. I haven't been to that one yet.
And then actually, almost his family is Roebuck's Nightmare.
Yeah. Roebuck's Nightmare. It's Anthony Roebuck and family, and he's in Bridgeview. If everyone hasn't seen him yet, go and see him. It's Bridgeview, I believe.
It's either Bridgeview or Burbank, but
you can't miss it. It's 70th in Harlem. You'll see the smoke.
I'm pretty sure we've been out there to that one before, or at least have seen it on the lists with the name and everything. But I'm pretty sure we hit everything in that area when we come through, especially you guys as well. You guys have a lot of amazing props on your lawn, and I'd say the majority of them are homemade. What were some of the fun ones, or maybe even some of the trickier ones to make for you guys?
I'd have to start with the
sewer.
The sewer that I dreamt up, and I don't have the schematics in front of me because I should have wrote them down in a journal in the garage. What we kind of kept thinking of doing, because I come up with ideas, I dream them up. And it was a 3-month process where I had an old pool ladder that was handed down off the garbage pick at my mother's for a couple of months, brought it back here. We decided, and I told her, we'll take a baby pool, we'll make a sewer out of it, and then put it in the house, put skulls on it. We had it Pennywise coming out of it. And
our whole plan was to run like a trickling pool of water down it, but it never worked the way we wanted it to. So
it was just such a time capsule that I call it the Sistine Chapel of ours, because nobody had one. And it was right in the middle of the movies coming out. So it was perfect.
When the first it came out, when they did the first remake, that's when he thought it up, and he was working nights then, so he was working on it while I was sleeping because he was up all night.
All LEDs, the PVC candles. It was a 3-month work of just the wiring, and we're not sure if we're going to include it this year. It might be for sale. I think it is. So if anyone's interested,
and if it's not, then we're going to tweak it into something else. We already have an idea.
We might convert it into something else that I can't really let go right now, but we want to use all of our pieces, and you repurpose, you rehab things that people have seen for years and years. You move things around, but that's probably the biggest piece that we've done until now, because there's something in the garage,
new things coming out this season that we've been working on for a month and a half already.
We've been very quiet. A lot of people are doing teasers, and
if they follow us on TikTok, then they've seen a couple of our little drops here and there.
Everyone knows, but they haven't seen it fully yet. And we have a couple of ideas from other haunters that we've been wanting to use. We did them in different ways, especially horror props. And we got ideas from Slanker and motorizing things and changing ideas. That's what this whole group of Chicago Haunt Builders is adapted into.
Tweaking things that we already have and turning them into different things. And Marie, relax.
I apologize for our dogs. They may bark.
No. The dogs are great. I'm a dog person too, so they're more than welcome to hop in here. Especially their house gets taken over.
Well,
so
he's right there behind me right now. So
they're a giant reason why the Homegrown Bones started with our business, so we can get into that later, but
that was actually the perfect transition, because of your ingenuity when it comes to haunting. You had told me one time how you make these foam molds, but now you have a company dedicated to that. Tell us a bit about the Homegrown Bones and how it started and how it's going.
Jump into that, and I'll let the other one in.
Is she outside?
Yeah.
So we have figured out a way to make our own molds. He uses cornstarch and silicone, and then we just find the face that we like, and we just press it in, and then it turns in. We make that, let that dry. You hit spray foam in there, let that cure, pull it out.
It's all exterior paint. It's super inside and out, interior, exterior. When we were doing it for the convention, that was the whole reason. It came from the house because we had these on our house, and we still have them right now.
We've had them out there for 4 or 5 years already. We have 2 sets of panels out there that have not come down.
Yeah, they're 4x4, like pallet size, that are about 7 pounds. So I can make anything for exterior applications to interior applications, under a bar, around a fireplace, safe. The reason why everybody as a spectator came and they said, I want a piece of this house, and took pictures, and then they frame them, put them on their mantle, put them in their kids' bedrooms. So then I'm like, we could start selling these things because people were asking about them. Can we make them custom? And I said, absolutely. And then we had to develop into the name and the LLC and getting the business rolling. And I'm like, we could actually just make a couple dollars out of it, but wasn't for the money aspect. It was really just so
it's for the fun of it. Somebody
could have a piece of our home haunt in their living room besides a picture. It's something they can touch, breathe, and feel and share. So that's where the whole thing came from. Like, it was just,
I will say that, like, any type of molded walls that I see especially in commercial haunts that are supposed to make it seem like a catacomb, it's just the skulls. It's just cookie cutter, you could press it all out in probably like one day. Yours, as you said, they're all different custom ones.
Yeah, we have 10 different faces.
Right.
There's 10 different faces that we have molds of.
We tried to sell it at the convention, like if you're buying, a cheeseburger on a menu and you're like, I want a number 4 with extra onions and, hold the mustard. So we were able to have people pick what they wanted if they took orders from us. And, what we had on display, I mean, we had 65 on display. We had to build the display for it. We had to get it there. Yeah. And it was such a process, and we'll never...
It was an exhausting weekend, but it was fun.
Never regret it. It was such an amazing experience, but it didn't happen this year, so that's what a lot of people
It was a lot. It's a lot to do and have to set up and then leave it and
go back to it. Even the Chicago Haunt Builders putting up the booth is a lot. Right. And then on top of it, they're doing the whole haunted house, and that has to be a whole team, a whole crew. So,
and then you guys just doing your own. We had a piece in the builders thing that was sold too.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because that was on display. I know I worked in it, and I thought I recognized your guys' artwork, and then all of a sudden it was gone, because I walked through on the Saturday and then acted on the Sunday. And I was like, I could have sworn there was something in here from you guys.
It sold on Sunday.
It was so crazy, Mike, because we were only able to go one day. I wanted to go Saturday and Sunday, and I actually got the piece to, I believe it was Jenny, that was whoever was orchestrating, and she was wonderful and super responsible, and took the builder's booth over, and she was taking all the things. I had to drive it out to Streamwood, drop it off over there. Told her, what we had to do to it and what the instructions were. You just plug it in and here it is. We forgot to put our name on it in a sense in case it was available for sale, which not many people were just looking to do that. They were looking to just display the Chicago Haunt Builders. So it was a custom piece that it was about 10, 12 hours. It was a custom, column that was all foam. All of our skulls, and I had a motorized moving hand that was perfectly, it sold really well as far as just the eye candy, and it made the booth really great. I mean, we wanted to have a piece and represent haunt builders, and we wanted to volunteer again, but with time and everything else we had going on, we couldn't. So what was crazy is that Sunday I wasn't even supposed to be there, but the guy that bought it was part of Chicago Haunt Builders, and I wanted somebody to have it so that he could represent it as well in his home display, customize it to his liking or keep it in his man cave, what have you. Right. But sweet gentleman, and I was like, it wasn't about the money, and I just wanted it to be in somebody else's house, and that was the reason. So
he goes all the way back there to get it on Sunday because we weren't sure it was going to sell. And as he's pulling in, she's texting him there's somebody here who wants to buy it. And I'm like, you drove from work to Rosemont
to go back up, pick it up, it wound up
for
selling,
no reason, and then it got sold.
But it was I think he felt more comfortable somebody being there in the present, and I felt happier about that, meeting the guy, and doing the pictures and seeing it walk away and him carrying it out. And he was like, this is only 8 pounds. And I'm like, yeah,
They're not heavy.
Yeah,
so
no, yeah,
Very
they
light.
are pretty light.
Yeah.
I know I had reached out to you, and you guys do, a phenomenal job, and you give them out for reasonable prices. But the area that I was trying to do was our whole catacomb hallway, and when I did the dimensions on it, I was like, yeah, I'm asking a lot of them and B, a lot of my own budget. And I'm like, I need
Right.
to kind of rethink this, but I haven't given up on that idea. Now we are taking 2025 off. We're going to go see
Right.
everybody, including you guys. And then
Gotcha.
we're going to try to come, or did I say 2025? 2024.
You're taking this season off.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
this season.
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead here, but 2024 off so that we could come back better in 2025 and
Wow.
hopefully in a new location. That's still TBD.
Gotcha.
But in that new location, I would imagine we're still going to go with a catacomb theme, considering at least in the
we
first
might
part.
be able to help you out.
So,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we'll have to look at our budget again in the future,
Right.
and I have not given up on that idea.
I mean, just to get it out there, it's the same with Midnight Terror. I want to get some pieces out to Justin because, I mean, he made an amazing thing with.
Because we won the village. This is the first year that Oaklawn did a like haunted, like house, like display, like award thing, and we ended up winning Judge's Choice, which was like top prize.
Which was crazy because
and it was sponsored by Midnight Terror. So
we had no idea about it until a couple police officers showed up one night when we were out, and he's like, "Just so you know, I think your house is being nominated for the Oaklawn contest of haunting."
Wow. And we didn't even know about it.
And I had no idea.
They hadn't said anything, and they kind of waited a little too late in the season to say that they were doing it. So we didn't even know we won until like middle of November.
Right. There was other houses that were nominated that were fantastic. It was just what an honor to actually be able to.
And actually, everybody that won first prize in the Oaklawn thing was everybody was a haunt builder.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. That's great representation from our group. I talked about the representation we had in the seminars at MHC and just, all of us being there, the haunted house, of course, and all that. But to do it in season, in the moment, at our haunts is amazing. And for that Oaklawn community to still be so strong. I remember going around as a kid, and it's still, I mean, now, so I'm in Schaumburg, and we have a decent community here. We have a great group of people around us, but we're not as dense as some of those south suburbs like by you guys or the extreme north suburbs like Algonquin, Huntley, Lake of the Hills. So the nice thing is we are in between everybody, and it's either a 30-minute drive here, a 30-minute drive there, and it's convenient. But I do envy the community that you guys have, and to be nominated for something that was like those Morty things that were coming out. I don't know if you guys got one that
we got one of those too. Right. We all got one. We were
I was like, I didn't put myself on any map for this.
We all got them. I put it out. I signed up for it, whatever, and there was like
it just got sent out to all the haunt builders.
No, but I mean, right. I put it out, and I'm like, I didn't know what this was. I look at the app. I downloaded it. I added it, and I'm like, okay, it was super easy. It was like. It was helpful. A lot of people. It was just more information, because
it was just another thing for all of the people that come to scan and be like, oh, there's other places we can hit too.
Right. It categorized and organized. I didn't mean to cut you off. And then
no, you're good.
If you don't have information on your house that shows other haunts, so we started doing that. And then for our, Hoof Woof and Meow Rescue, and I believe it's in Elgin, that we raise money. Everything that we take as a donation, it goes to them because we
rescue the dogs from there.
All 3 of our dogs were rescued from that rescue. So that's where the homegrown bones.
It's Hoof, Woof, and Meow and Elgin.
Oh, okay. That's right in my backyard then. Okay.
Right.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's where
that's
the homegrown
awesome.
bones came from, because it was homegrown bones, and it was like we adapted the business with the dogs, rescue, and like solid foundation, super, super just giving, friendly, and information out there for other people to be able to rescue a dog and save a dog's life and give a donation that we rescue and adapt that into our haunt.
We had that little kid that came last season he just had like piggy bank from his change that he was just dropping in the bucket.
Man, you can't put a price on that.
His mom just emptied out his piggy bank, and I was just like, oh, that's adorable. He was probably like 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even think he could reach the thing. They had to like hold him up so he could drop his money in there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's amazing. And I didn't even realize you guys were doing the donations, but a lot of those houses by you guys do either different animal shelters like you guys
Right.
or the canned food drives and stuff like
Right.
that. And that's another great aspect that I don't think we even really talked too much about on this podcast. But even Jim Slanker has the canned food drive and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So
For
I
the
mean,
And then
things.
he does the donation for the Dane rescues too for
yeah, that's
dogs.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Giant.
course. Yeah, they're big dog
It's
people too.
giant. I don't
So
remember what it's called. It's
Giant
giant
something.
something because
Right.
he's got the Great Danes. So, but he
yeah,
does the canned food and that one.
is it Gentle Giants?
Gentle
It might be,
giants.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean that's awesome. I'm a big dog person too. So we lost ours in 2020, and we haven't gone and gotten another one. But
Right.
when we do bring Voodoo back, that is always an idea is to accept donations for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Because
You
what we
never
do
know,
is
man.
we take the $5 donation to go through as we're a walkthrough haunt, and then a lot of
Right.
it goes back to the budget to help us survive for next year,
Oh
and then
yeah.
of course my actors have to get something.
Right.
But
Right.
then
Right.
anything we get else in like a donation bucket that I would definitely put that towards a good cause like
Right.
that. And
See
going
if.
back to the maps, I actually kind of prefer fright maps because it's a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
more cartoony. You
We
get some
used it
points.
last
It's like
year.
a little video game. But the Morty thing was cool too. But
Right.
to have, I mean, just another media outlet for us to
Right.
have our
Of course.
lists and our
Yeah.
locations on it is
Just
great.
information.
Which ones are you guys on when you
We're
list?
on
We're on Fright Maps
we're on
too.
Fright Maps. We're
I don't know
on
if
the
we've updated it
Mortys,
this
and
year. We
then
will.
the Oaklawn Patch takes
Okay.
a compilation of all of the like Oaklawn hometown houses and makes their own little like
Right.
of like just what's in the area of the houses that are decorated for the season.
Yeah, yeah. But that's one thing that I actually won't miss about us not doing our home haunt this year is I usually take a whole day and set aside time to get on, of course, Chicago Haunt Builders, but then also Fright Maps. I guess this Morty thing did it for me, did my homework for
Right.
me, but then also the patch and the Haunted Illinois list and everything, and I
Right.
just make sure that all the listings are the
We have
same.
the
And
Haunted Illinois
Right.
too, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was on it. Yeah.
I feel like I'm like firing off like 7 different emails in one day.
Right.
Like, all right, I make sure I contacted everybody that's going to put us on
But
a
then
list
it's
that
like-
we need to be.
Then you like second guess yourself sometimes. You're like, did I put myself on this one?
Right.
Or
Right.
did
Right.
I not? Or
Right.
did he do it and then
And if
I
you
sent it
don't,
too,
usually
or-
somebody puts you on there somehow or they tag you. So
Yeah.
it's like it really, I mean, it's not for us. It's for the people that see the house. It's the spectators.
Yeah.
It's the community, the love, the support, just the nourishment for our children to see these things and
Right.
get information and see different movie characters. And you're not scared. You want them to come back.
Yeah.
And you get all ages, from 4 to 3 weeks to 90 years old with an oxygen tank. I mean, it's just amazing, Mike, what you're able to
Yeah,
actually
we get a lot of people over here.
get that different age group where it's the same movie, but during the day when we're at work, I mean,
It looks different than it
there's
looks
school
at night.
buses and there's Amazon drivers and our pizza guy. I mean, there's always somebody taking a selfie, at all given
The
hours.
garbage
And
man
it's
last year was taking a
fantastic.
selfie?
Yeah.
I've told the story on the podcast of how the pizza guy will come to ours and then around the corner and we'll be answering the door or walking out to the end of the driveway in
Right.
costume. So he's already freaked out handing us the pizza, but then he'll go around to Slingerland Slaughterhouse Slingerland Slaughterhouse with Steve and the Getsalitas family and he's like, yeah, guess where I'm going next. So it's kind of funny, but like you mentioned, it's also the daytime. It's when we're out there building or just out there setting up
Right.
for nighttime. It's the mailman or we had one. I think it was a UPS or was a FedEx. Either one. A
Right.
driver came by and he's like, man, you guys go all out. He's like, I'm coming back tonight with the rest of my family. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
man, absolutely.
Right. It's pretty incredible when you adapt that into. You're just living in the space, but yet you forget that it's actually out there 24/7. So it's
Right.
like the Home Alone house. You don't know who's going to show up at any given hour. So
Right.
it's really, you forget about it and they're like, they come back every year and, time and time again.
We have that family that comes every year and they take a family picture underneath our arch every year and they put it on their fireplace.
Right. Now it's
multiple. I was going to say it's their Christmas card now,
Right. Yeah.
They come every year and and actually I think it was last year or the year before, I actually took the photo for them.
And the kids age awesome. And then, teenagers are, now they have their kids and it's like, I remember these people from years ago and now they have their children and their grandparents or their parents. And I'm like, you walk out there and there's people with coolers sitting on the parkway, just letting their kids walk around for an hour. And it's they thank you for having an amusement park that they can just have as, distraction in the world right now that it's so cool, just to have that. And
we have those kind of kids too. It was actually our neighbors that used to live across the street from us. And when they came back, they've since moved, but they came back one year and the two girls that they have, I didn't even recognize them. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so old now. Like I remember when you guys were like 3 years old running around the cul-de-sac but you guys have a perfect side lawn right there where you guys can just sit out, enjoy yourselves and meet and greet with everybody as they come up to see the display.
We get to hide on our little deck and just watch everybody walk up and see everything. The house was made for this.
It really was, because you get a 3-story or 360 adaptation from the driveway, and then people forget that we're over there, so we get to hide behind certain things. And then I'll pop up and I'm like, thank you guys for coming. Oh my God. And I'm like, I didn't mean to scare you. I was just welcome you and let you know there's nothing.
Many children that
nothing
way.
That more adults than children.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I let them know that the only thing that we have as a live actor
are the dogs,
which you can save money on, Mike, is get your dogs and you won't have to pay your actors then. Cause our live actors are the four-tail ones are the best.
Yeah, ours was a beagle, so he would go out there and wag his tail and then roll over. So he wasn't exactly the scariest. But I always wanted to dress him up as like, those spider costumes that the little dogs have, or Cerberus, a
little Chucky or something.
Yeah, he's a terrifying 3-headed dog, and then he's gonna roll over and want you to rub his belly for an hour.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I saw that you guys were able to find one of those giant, groundbreaking blow mold skeletons.
Oh yeah, you want to hear about that story?
There's a story that we'll not spend 20 minutes discussing now. That we'll talk to you in person. But it took us 2.5 years. I was on the onslaught of having to get one of these because we have a certain plan that I haven't seen anybody do yet. So
it's got
everybody will be in big surprise for this. So many people have adapted it. We actually put it out for the 4th just because, I had to have it. I put a giant flag on them. There's some pictures on our Facebook page. We had to celebrate them because I was so excited. I couldn't wait. And it showed up literally the day before the 4th. I believe I went and got it, or the 2nd. And it wasn't supposed to be here until later on in the month, but it took a lot. That's all I'm going to say. So finally was able to get my hands on one.
Because you wanted one last year and you couldn't get one.
Yeah, people were looking for these things the 12-footers, the story. But we're so grateful that I was able to grab one.
We've already tweaked them a little bit, painted some things out, and he's got a spot ready to go for haunt season. So
I was actually standing in line for that Techie Warehouse sale earlier this month. Yeah. And as we were talking about those kind of skeletons, and I think we may have it was myself and my co-host on the podcast, Matt Nossid, for the Haunters Hack. We were talking about these skeletons, and we might have been talking about yours, and my neighbor sent me the link to one as we're talking, and she goes, oh, you need to get one of these. And I was like, that's so weird. Yeah. We were literally just talking about that, and here it is July. Right. Like, what are the chances? But I bought the two. We have the Inferno skeleton, and we have the regular 12-footer.
Yeah, we have both as well.
How different is it to store this one? It doesn't look like it's as compact. Like with those, I wasn't able to keep the boxes. They wouldn't fit in the trunk of my RAV4.
So our 12-footers, we got one of those really big Christmas bags to put all of their little pieces in.
The limbs, you keep them.
That's what we did.
Actually, he's like, it's his head, his neck, his body, and then
the torso to the hip.
His hands.
From the head to the torso, I kept them in one piece. They're in our garage. All the limbs I put in a Christmas bag. Yeah. It's the best way to do it because you don't have to unwire it. And we actually bypass the power supply, which a lot of people are sharing. A lot of people were asking about. I Amazon the links off of our page just to give people that were getting the newer ones or whatnot.
Right.
Female connectors, and it saves you so much time because we had to go out there in the snow and put the, thing on under the hip. And I'm like, I wanted direct power every time. But then I also motorized both of their heads to turn.
So both of their heads move.
Which was a 3-month process in itself to figure out the first, way to do it, shared it around. It was Lazy Susan's, Mike, and a super easy Deere motor. And just to get the movement right.
Okay.
It was a lot of work out in the garage, just taking it apart, putting it back together, taking it apart. But they were perfect, and it was like one of those things where it was like just enough head movement where it caught 52nd Avenue, wow. They're like, I just saw one in another house and it didn't move. And that's what everything that I buy, if I'm in a store bought it, we stay away from animatronics because I want everything to be waterproof. Everything that we have, it runs.
We run rain or shine
24/7.
We don't not light up at night. So.
And a lot of people I gave the idea that did run any animatronics, I said it instead of using the garbage bags and shutting them off, use clear garbage bags. Now they are moving in the rain
and you can still see
they look like body bags. And it was such a great that people used on it. And I'm like, if you're putting the time and money and investment and you want to have it out there, it's a space that you need. So use it. And you're creating something different that nobody's going to see. So everything definitely. I try and have move or tweak, but a lot of the motors, the wiper motors to reindeer, they're pretty, they're solid with Chicago weather, 40-mile-an-hour winds and rain. But I make them so that if I have to replace something, I can do it within a given minute or few minutes while somebody is coming up, because I want the house to be 110% every time somebody comes up.
Everything's covered. We keep like old coffee cans to cover plugs so we know where stuff is at.
Yeah, they're godsend. I mean, anything you can repurpose to store like plugs, power outlets, of course. You're just trying to keep things running, but if it's out there, it has to run. I don't want to, I'm sorry, come back tomorrow. I don't want to do that.
And then the other thing we do too is we lay mulch over the wires in the yard so we know where stuff is at.
As a safety marker, so Mike doesn't trip on power cords because he has. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. And then of course, when you're lopping off the heads and decapitating your 12-footers, you want to make sure that you know how to put them back together and that they move. And also when you do have to bag them, it's not messing up that movement and such. So it's a lot of literally moving parts and moving pieces when it comes to this stuff. And like you said, with the Chicago weather, but that is kind of the industry standard in a sense, because we've had other guests on the podcast that have said anything you buy store bought, you gotta do some kind of creative tweaks to it.
You gotta weatherproof it some way,
from the inside or out, or you have to have some kind of canopy to hide it under. But that's another safety standard that you got to. If you don't have a front porch, I mean, ours is very open. We get wind from south and west, strong. But I think about the spectators. I don't want.
We also don't want something to like the wind knock something and somebody gets hurt because something falls. Like we want to make sure that everything is safety wise.
And you're dealing with the electricity, so I don't want to take any chances on anything if it falls or whatnot. So we try and keep our display is. I mean, knock on wood, we've had great years and nothing. As far as like any kind of constricting outside elements that would cause a safety hazard. That's the number one goal. But then it's like the eye candy. If you cover something, you unplug something because it's a safety hazard, it's like you have to do that. But we haven't. And I usually have things away from sidewalks enough that if a tree limb falls or, nature comes through, it's one of those things that it's not going to hurt anybody.
With the heavy snow?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey,
Blowers.
I was just thinking about that because I think what everybody thinks of when they say you have to tweak these store-bought props. Everybody thinks of the creative side to it and, oh, what can I do to make it better, and scarier or
It's
fit
also
into
the
my theme. But
weatherproofing part
but
too.
Oh, yeah.
weatherproofing is changing it, and that's enough of a step for most
Right.
haunters
Right.
that you've changed it enough to protect your investment against
Right.
all of this Chicago weather. And we've done such a good job at ours in the last couple of years that we really haven't had to close down except for when it snows a bunch on Halloween like it did last year. Were you guys able to
Yeah.
brave that snow?
We've never shut down, Mike. Out of all
That's
the
He was out
awesome.
there
years,
with the blower
I
with the
think it
snow.
was right after COVID, I want to say, and I was dressed as Pennywise out there with my rechargeable blower because I was worried about the sidewalks, but the props, everything was weighing everything
Down
down,
'cause it was
and
so
nobody,
heavy.
it was a pile of snow with lights on it. So then you see certain things moving, but then I'm like, the motors can only take so much weight and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But then, the fog machine
Oh
with the
yeah.
snow, it was amazing. It looked like Edward Scissorhands' front yard. I'm like, I was in tears so many nights, Mike, where I'm like, you can't like get a good enough picture because
Right.
of
Yeah.
snow hitting your lens, and it was like you had to be here, and it was just like you're dancing in the snow, man. It was
Yeah.
just incredible,
Yeah.
you know.
I think our props would have been okay in the snow. We took a precaution regardless, but we
Right,
couldn't even with ours because it's a walkthrough. We couldn't even run our
right,
show. Like
right.
me, I stand up on a structure that's on the driveway. I took one step and slipped a little bit on
Yeah,
the wood, and I
I
was like,
remember the
"Yeah,
story. You
I'm
told
gonna
me that.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
fall to my
you
death at this."
break
Right.
your neck or something.
I remember you sharing
Yeah.
that story with me.
So, but yeah, you guys are skillful and lucky in that aspect that you guys have survived because the time that was our equivalent to that Edward Scissorhands front lawn is 2022 when we
And
had that really dense fog roll in
yeah,
on Halloween.
oh
And my
yeah,
friends are running around going, Mike, turn off the fog machines. And I'm like, this isn't me. This is nature. We've had them off for a couple hours now.
it was in. I remember that exactly.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I think she fell asleep a little, like it was like 9:30, 10ish, maybe
I think
11.
that was the year Bria got married
And
and
it
had to
was
work.
that
Yeah.
was Halloween. I remember it was Halloween night, and I
Yeah.
think she just went to bed, and I was going to go out and shut everything out. I looked around, the whole street was empty, and I'm standing in the street, and I couldn't even see my house from my own street. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable trying to take pictures on the phone. You couldn't capture it. You had to just be
Yeah.
there. And I'm just,
Certain
Right.
things the phone can't capture.
it was absolutely
We
incredible.
we took pictures out in the field, and the pictures, you could tell that there was fog, but it wasn't like actually being out there.
Right.
That was
It
the
was,
best.
it was,
And I mean, yeah, and my friends, the only reason they wanted the fog lowered, I mean, obviously they were into it too, but it was,
right,
we're in a cul-de-sac and the cars are whipping around as
right.
the people are coming to park or leaving, and they
Oh.
can't see who's running out into the street. So it's either my actors or the kids, and I'm like, all right, just divert everybody from the street, but let's enjoy this while we can, right?
It was incredible.
Yeah. But let's hope for another season like that. And you guys, as we mentioned, have an extended season. So coming up, first off, where can people find you, and do you know the dates and at least kind of like the rough estimate of when Haunted Barrens is going to be open?
We're probably going to start setting up in the next.
I'd say two to
2 to
4
3,
weeks,
yeah.
somewhere in
The
there.
fencing goes up first, so
We start small as far as props, but we get the fencing. I get a lot of my cords together. I probably put as much of the electrical out, make it where I need,
where
accessibility.
it's going to go.
Then put the fence up for security measures. Then we kind of add here and there. And by September, we already have half the lawn out because
That's
I
awesome.
want that full.
Usually by like Labor Day, like at least half the lawn
It's
is
usually,
already kind of there.
we start earlier and earlier, but the HOAs, we could have started July 4th or July 5th. We wanted to, but I'm like,
It's a little too early.
you kind of lose some of summer then, and I don't want to take it away from kids that, we still have traffic, but you want to respect the seasons in a sense where
Right.
I'm like, late August, people are starting to they're getting the ideas if they're not in it like all of us are, where I'm like, we never stop.
Right.
You have to go to these conventions and shindigs, and we're meeting so many great people like yourself, and it was just like, what an honor to see all the ideas and the things that are out there. And I'm like, there's not time for like a two week. You have to put this out for months. So I would say late August, early September, and then we go up until I usually mark it off as my birthday on the 12th. So I try and
depending on the weather.
Right.
If I can, that year it snowed, we pulled everything down.
We try and get stuff down
2 days after Halloween and just like threw it in the garage.
It's tough, and you don't want mold and because
we didn't want anything to get ruined with the snow, and it was just like we kind of just pulled everything down as quickly as we could. But
I would say probably late August, in a few weeks, you're going to start seeing things popping up online. We're going to start, really prevalent, like just unveiling everything at this point where we've been so secretive, and it, you give tidbits, but people are hungry. They want
you want to blow everything off too fast, though,
but
either
you want to slowly condition people where it's like, oh wow, and kids get excited, and the school buses and kids have their phones now. So now it's like, start seeing pictures of your house online. And I'm like, I didn't even put anything out yet. And you start seeing things like, and that's great. So we try and go as late as we can in the season, obviously with weather and stuff. We try and get it down a few weeks before Thanksgiving, but we extend it because I'm like, it's time sensitive. There's people that travel for Thanksgiving, and then they're like, oh, we're doing Thanksgiving early this week. Is there any way you could just hold it off another? And I'm like, I've held it out here for 3 months.
Right? Yeah.
So
the house has got to turn back into a house sometimes, So, but yeah, I mean, this is fitting because we're getting you on the July episode, so this is like the stepping stone to August and you guys being open. And it's also funny because I just went on WRMN AM 1410 in Elgin and talked and they were asking about when should we celebrate Halloween. And I've always been of the mindset of like, I don't want it to be like Christmas where it gets celebrated in August. And then by the time Christmas actually rolls around, it's diluted. You're over it already. Yeah. But I think with what you guys are doing, especially if people go out and see your yard and, of course, see the homegrown bones foam molds, they'll understand that it's more just excitement, and that's what I'm feeling right now. And as I'm eager to see what you guys put out this year for sure.
It's really personal for us, Mike. I mean, we feel like honored and responsible with our reputation now to uphold
we enjoy
that.
And it's fun and.
It brings us together. I mean, all these hung couples that it's just incredible to see, people like Slanker. I mean, I don't know how they do it and then take it down and put it back up for Christmas. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. But they do it.
We don't do this for Christmas.
I'm like, I'm just so jealous of your youth.
We get that question all the time. Do you do this for Christmas? No.
And I'm like, this is my Christmas. I throw some Charlie lights out there, Charlie Brown lights and whatever. But it's like, there's nothing like this, man, because we look forward to it so much, and we're known as the Halloween couple, in Oak Lawn. So it's like we try and preserve
you're the
that.
Halloween house. Yes, we're the Halloween house.
Because we're gonna get older, and I'm like, I don't know how long I can do this, but I'm like, I'm gonna do it as long as I have to.
There's a lot of couples like you guys in the group that it's a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend team, and for every one of those couples, though, there are the ones out there that it's either the husband or the wife, and the other one just kind of rolls their eyes and is like, I'm tired of this. So that's awesome that you guys are working together. And yeah, Voodoo, we're not doing anything for Christmas either. I've told the story before. We sold Baby Jesus and the Nativity set in a garage sale to make room for Halloween stuff. So a little sacrilegious, but got to get the garage space, right?
That's fantastic.
Wow. But awesome, guys. I am so excited to get to see Haunted Barrens this year and see what comes next for Homegrown Bones. And, of course, with my group being off this year, we're coming out to see you guys. So mark your calendars. I'm excited.
Yep. Let us know when you're coming.
We'll be open.
Thanks for joining me. Anywhere else that people can find you, connect with you, and also an idea just popped in my head. We have a Chicago Haunt Builders build coming up. Maybe in the future we get a homegrown bones type build in the works.
Between Cheryl's and Slankers and so many people, I'm like, we have the home to do it, and that it sparked an interest in my mind because I'm like, whatever we're not making, I'm like, you just take a little gander down to the garage, and if there's anything that you like, you can maybe take it home with you for purchase, or we'll trade or something. So it's a way to get rid of our stuff, but it's like you have things that we want to get rid of that don't go with the home hunt. You want to change things, you change themes, you move guys around, but we've tried thinking of a make and take, and I'm like, the spray foam thing, I mean, we could do a mold build with a good amount of people and do the tables and the whole nine.
Right.
And we thought about it. It's just the spray foam. You know, it gets on things, and then with the dogs running around and you have kids around. So it's a time-sensitive thing where it takes at least a 24-hour, 48-hour period, depending on if you know how to work with it.
If it's hot or if it's cold, and if it's going to cure.
We're trying to adapt from just what we started the business for to maybe doing props of something custom that, you know, are movie themed or whatnot. So we're reaching out in different ideas.
We're tweaking things and trying to figure things out.
You know, it's what I know people would want, what I wanted as a kid. And that's what I try to put, you know, we put into our yard is what we thought of as kids, what I was scared of, but then excited, you know. So now it's like, there's so many great movies that are coming out this year, that are out, have been out for 30, 40 years, that we're adapting into this, and it's going to be bigger than ever. We're teething, you know, with excitement. I wanted to put some stuff out last night, and I'm like, just to see how it looks. And we've already moved things out in the yard just to see how they looked. And I'm like, you have to size to scale, you know.
Right.
But
things need to be taller, lower.
What's gonna work? But then I'm like, I want things big. You know, I want stuff. I want things bigger than they were.
Sometimes big is too big, though.
But, you know, for this, it's like the things that we've already had, I want them taller, you know, brighter, you know.
Right.
Not scarier, just more detail, more real, you know, and just feel that energy from, you know, the spectators. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Well, yeah, I can't wait either. And I did hit you with the two-parter, though, for any kind of business inquiries or questions they might have, or just wanted to keep in touch with you. Where can people find you guys?
So the Haunted Barons page has its own Facebook page, and then our Homegrown Bones has its own TikTok. So you can find us on TikTok at Homegrown Bones, so you can see all of our little snippets there. And then
our website was through Wix. I haven't updated it currently. We've been, like I said, we've been hiding out of the media shells. We've been
pretty much all of our stuff is just on our social media pages. So
we're going to start dropping a lot of pictures, a lot more videos, and we'll update our info a little bit. Our Homegrown Bones at Yahoo, that's how you can directly contact us. If there is anything that you're looking custom wise, that you're thinking out of the idea of catacombs or something foam lightweight, send me an email, you know, stuff like that. A picture of a house or where you want it in your home. That's what I tell a lot of people.
So we can figure out sizes and stuff.
And you shoot us an email, you let us know. I don't want to give our, you know, private numbers out. But the Yahoo email, we have it directly to both of our phones. So that's the easiest way to contact us as far as like custom pieces, or for yourself for future, you know, you're looking for the ideas for wallscapes and things. So we'll figure something out.
Well, I am excited. The fans, the listeners, the eventual visitors should be too. Thank you guys both for jumping on, and we look forward to seeing you guys this season.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate it more than you know, man. It's so cool.
Absolutely. Sweet.
Good talking to you. Good to see you, man.
Thank you again to Mike and Sara for another awesome interview. Go ahead and check them out at Oaklawn Haunted Barons during the season. They will be opening early, as they kind of said. In August and September, you'll be able to catch at least a partial display as they build towards their full display. This past month, on July 13th, we also went to the Summer Screams event at Disturbia Haunted House. Of course, they always put on a great show. The outside was very summer beach themed, and then you get inside and it is still the Disturbia that you have come to love and know. The outside, they had people on roller skates and in lifeguard outfits and with the pit vipers on, and of course volleyballs were being,
pushed up into the air and batted all around. And they also had, what was really cute was a little bags set up in the parking lot. And one of the actors, one of the little guys, decided to play bags with me. But now we weren't playing traditional bags. He and I were the only two playing, so we would toss our bags and then there would be nobody on the other side, so we'd walk over to the other board and go retrieve our bags. Well, he had his little slide gear on, so he was able to beat me there and then start plucking the bags out of the hole, and then we'd go for the next round. So that was, of course, always a great event. We started to see a little bit of what Chains and Spike were saying when it comes to Cage Maze being changed. So big things in the works for Disturbia, and we're excited to see them in the coming season. Now, let's get into what is happening, and not a whole lot, as most of the haunts are prepping for the actual season as the off-season comes to a close. But we have one event on the horizon. That is August 31st. It'll be the Haunting with Friends event that they are calling The Gathering. And by they, I mean former guest of the podcast, Adam Brandon Seigan. He is hosting this event for haunters. There will be Haunting 101, a kids' costume contest, home haunts, and more. And part of that more section is free food. Who doesn't love free food? Scary Perry's will be presenting this event. It goes from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on that Saturday, August 31st. It'll be at Isle a la Cache Preserve, 501 East Romeo Road in Romeoville, Illinois, 60446. So, what to expect from the more part? Well, there will be panels either in the outdoor arena or the campfire. So panel number 1 from 1 to 2 p.m. over in the outdoor arena part. It will be the welcome panel, so monster narrative exposition. So let's talk about how to build the background of your haunt character. Of course, the moderator for that one will be Adam. And then in panel 2 from 2 to 3 p.m., Haunters 101 class. That will be another former guest of the podcast, Japes Palace. In the third panel from 3 to 4 p.m., Breaking Out of the Prison with Christine and Mike Johnson. I'm guessing that has to do with the old Joliet Haunted Prison. Panel number 4 will be the Family Improv class taught by Katie Lynn Rodriguez. And then the Kids Costume Contest from 5 to 6 p.m. The kids will have their contest take place in the outdoor area. That will be hosted by Bobby Lugosi. Now, in the campfire area, there are 3 panels, and this is where I am excited because Voodoo will be representing. But first, from 1 to 2 p.m., the first panel will be Haunting with Friends / Haunters 365, and they will be teaming up for a live-streamed panel, so that'll be Matt Brill and Tank. Panel number 2, from 2 to 3 p.m., will be Who is Bobby Lugosi? A simple Q&A to find out everything you'd like to know about our good friend Dracula. And then the third panel, which I am excited for, from 3 to 4 p.m., the Home Haunting Walkthroughs 101 and Q&A. The moderators for this one, Nightmare Haunted House, Horror on Highland, and ourselves, Voodoo on Vassar. Thus far, I think I am the only one representing Voodoo, but I will definitely persuade a couple of the Voodoo members to get up and share their knowledge as well. But excited to hear from the Nightmare Haunted House and Michael Peters, as well as Adam himself from Horror on Highland. And then from 6:15 to 6:35 will be the Spooky Zombie Walk. So after that costume contest, you can meet up at the campfire and join in on the Zombie Walk. Later on that night, they will be moving the party over to Horror on Highland. That's 1314 Highland Avenue, Lockport, Illinois. It'll be the Haunting with Friends after-hours screening, so it'll be a movie. That'll be at 8 p.m. that same Saturday, August 31st at night. And this isn't just a one-day event. No. There was a lot on that Saturday, but there's more on Sunday. That'll be the first ever Spooky Market. That is September 1st from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. That'll be on 133rd 133 West 13th Street in Lockport, Illinois, 60441. That is also known as the Lockport Historic Train Station. So just an awesome venue for that as well. Excited to see that. There will be food trucks, spooky vendors, palm readings, and the paranormal. That is on September 1st. So get out there for that one as well. The only other thing I could say coming up in August is Mike and Sarah's Oaklawn Haunted Barrens. But when you're not going to visit them or at these events with Haunting with Friends, how are you going to fill your nights? Well, maybe go see a couple different movies, right? You know me. I never have time on my hands to see these movies that I tell you about, and the one I'm currently referring to is Longlegs. I've heard some mixed reviews about it. I heard some people that said it was an absolute waste of time, but I've also heard some people say it was a very interesting, creative concept for a movie, and it wasn't quite horror, but it was a mix of like mystery and I don't know. I'm going to have to go see for myself to understand, but that is out now. The next thing you can go and see, the one that I've been waiting to go and see, is Cuckoo with Hunter Schafer. It looks like that is going to be out here in August, I believe August 9th. So that'll be next Friday from when I'm recording here. Hunter Schafer is from Euphoria, so I'm excited to see that one. And then a little bit later down the line, we'll be talking about this more in August. September 6th will be the release of Beetlejuice, sequel to the original Beetlejuice. Of course, I am going to see this one. This I will be putting aside time for it. Of course, Michael Keaton is reprising his role as Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder will be back as well, and they're adding in Jenna Ortega. There's also going to be some appearances from Danny DeVito and Willem Dafoe, so that is an interesting casting. This one will definitely be on my list to go and see. Right now, the only one I did actually go and see was Deadpool and Wolverine. Not exactly the theme of this podcast, but I would say go out and see that movie. It was phenomenal. I thought it was great. It was hilarious. They always do a great job. But without further ado, let me stop rambling and get you into the next interview I have here. That is with Dane Erbach, and that is an interesting one because we don't really know each other. We just met during this interview. He is actually a teaching friend of a friend who wrote a book that I thought might fit the genre of this podcast, and it does, and so do his other works. We cover all of this in the interview, so without further ado, here is the interview with Dane Erbach. I am privileged to be joined by an author, husband, and father. He self-published his latest book, Friday Night at Humble House, which is about 14-year-old Becky, who is visited by ghosts while trying to juggle the regular stresses of being a high schooler. He knows some of those stresses very well as he is a teacher at McHenry Community High School District. Please welcome to the Voodoo Podcast, Dane Erbach.
It's really cool being here. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. I know that you studied writing, but when was it that you first started? And tell us a little bit about yourself, because as a teacher and a dad, you have to wear many hats.
That's probably true. I mean, it's not as hard as it sounds, I guess. I'm a dad and I'm a teacher. It's hard to describe yourself to someone who's never met you. I guess I sort of see I've had a lot of passion projects. So writing is just one part of it. I used to do a lot of music journalism, so I'd interview a lot of bands and stuff, and I played in a few bands. And then I kind of pivoted more to fiction, but I didn't want to give up my my music interests. So I ran an indie record label for a little while, and helped some bands press some records and stuff like that. And really I've just tried to lean into writing a bit more recently. I haven't stopped writing since I was in college, like regularly, but I think I've made a more serious go at it in the past, 5 years or something. And something happened in the past year where I was like, I should just publish my own book and let's see what happens there. So I started writing when I was in middle school, I was writing like little short stories and stuff. And then I wrote, I mean, it's kind of weird to talk about this because like I could say like I wrote a book in high school, but I really just like stayed up late instead of going to bed and wrote like chapters of a book that no one ever read. So, like I don't know that counts. In college though, I studied writing. I double majored in English and education, but I wrote for the student newspaper, and I started taking different classes on like creative nonfiction, and so I really kind of expanded a bit. And then out of college, my first couple of years of teaching, I wasn't really sure how writing fit into being an adult. So like I kind of slowed down a bit, but I ran a music blog for a while um, I mean, it's going to sound weird, but I interviewed bands, but on like old landline phones. And I was like, yo, do you think you could play a couple songs? And so I recorded like this whole collection of music that was like low quality over the phone demo style.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like sometimes biggish, punk bands and stuff, so not that big, right? But biggish ones, and I also had these weird, so in any other way, and I'm just rambling now, but I guess what I'm saying is like I've been writing all kinds of stuff for a long time, and it's I think somewhere around 2012, I started writing Friday Night at Humble House, and it took me a really long time because I was trying way too hard and taking it way too seriously. And yeah, it was my first book, like my first real novel that I ever finished writing. So yeah.
That's amazing. The behind the scenes of how this interview is even happening is you are a friend of mine, Johnny Aubert, and I assume you guys teach together. Is that the connection? So, and he's a big music junkie. I'm sure he's told you all this, but he managed a band for a while that we go and we listen to because they're friends of ours now. And all that kind of punk rock is all up his alley because he used to have a show at Harper. And so that's really cool that you guys connect on those levels. And he connects in the scary horror aspect too, and we're going to get into that. But have you always written about horror and scary things, even when you were doing those middle school stories, or is this kind of your first dabble into that genre?
So, like, again, I'm sorry if I'm rambly because I'm jumping all over the place
go
here.
for it.
So, aside from the music journalism, I was writing fiction, and I was writing things that were more narrative, like I said, creative nonfiction. So I'd be telling my own stories and connecting to that. And then that kind of led to more novel writing. But my first real project I ever wrote was a play, but I don't know anything about writing plays. It was just like a random thing that came to me in the middle of the night, and I just felt compelled to write it. And at the end of the play, a main character dies and then comes back and starts talking to another main character. And so like even my first fictional, like big fictional thing that I wrote had ghosts in it, And so this is my first, like, I'm going to hold up the book. Is this going to be like on YouTube and stuff?
We haven't switched over to video podcasting yet.
That's
it's just audio, but it is nice for me to be able to see it because that's pretty cool. And I
didn't want to be a nerd and hold up my book.
No, go for it. I can post some of the imagery after when I post the links too. So that's very cool.
For sure. Well, the Humble House was like, when I wrote that book, I was living in a house in Harvard, Illinois, which is really, pretty far north, almost to Wisconsin. And it was an old house. And I had no cool haunted experiences there, even though I really wanted to. But it lent itself to like what was this house like a long time ago, 100 years ago? Who are the people living in it? How is it possible that I'm connected to those people? And ghosts was like the only thing I thought about. After I wrote this book and I didn't sell it and couldn't find an agent, I was like feeling pretty bummed. And so I pivoted and I started writing more young adult fiction. And I wrote one about a kid who becomes a meme. And I wrote one about this kid in a punk rock band in the 80s. And I wrote another one too that was about cryptids and like hunting like the Jersey Devil and stuff, but I didn't really totally finish that. I got pretty close, but those young adult novels, like I found an agent. We were trying to get it published like through bigger publishers, and then it just didn't work out. So like it was about a year ago, I mean a little more than a year ago, that I found myself like, feeling really down about my writing and feeling a little hopeless and reading a lot of horror novels and being like, why don't I just try writing one of my own? So the stuff I've been writing most recently have been horror, although probably more like monstery, like less ghosts and haunted stuff. Although the one I just finished in the spring has to do with these kids who are in a high school and they find some crazy monstery paranormal stuff going on. They try to investigate it, and they all get killed one at a time. And so, like, in other words, but with a couple of exceptions, pretty much everything I've written has some speculative element, some darkness to it, and if I can, ghosts, and if I can't, monsters. And at the end of the day, too, there's also like a lot of humor and joy in the stories, even though they also have a lot of darkness and death and stuff too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You gotta sprinkle that in there a little bit. Jumping into Friday Night at Humble House, without giving too much away, what can you tell us about the premise of the story? Especially, we kind of touched upon it a little bit, but going a little bit deeper without too many spoilers.
Yeah. So like I said, the book was inspired by me living in this really old house and thinking about what this house has been through in the past 100 years. So I tried to create 5 characters that lived in this house throughout history. And each one's got their own, like, at the risk of sounding a little dramatic, they have their own cross to bear. They have their own thing to kind of figure out. One character, his name's Charles. He's the guy who pulls his family from his parents or his in-laws' farm, and to the big city, which is really just like a small little town at the time, in the 1890s, and he builds the house for them. But he's under pressure to like build the house by the end of the winter, but then he loses his job, and a lot of things happen that make him kind of like the tragic hero of the story. There's another girl from 2011. Her name is Becky, and she's a teenage girl who is just like kind of, she's a freshman in high school and she can't figure out like friends. She can't really figure out her place. And she's got people making fun of her and writing graffiti on the girls' bathroom wall about her. So she's sort of feeling lost, and her family's no better. Like her brother and her mom are just kind of awful. So she's got a little bit of like growing up to do, a little bit of like coming of age and so on and so forth. Jumping backwards again, another character is named Barbara, and her husband just went to fight in World War II. So she's living in the house, the same house that the other two are living in. But she's got 2 friends whose husbands are also fighting overseas. And she's got to learn a little bit about independence and how to live her life on her own. Flash forward a little more, and there's a character named, gosh, I'm mixing them all up right now. There's a lot of them to keep track of. There's a character named Preston. And the best part about Preston's story is that he runs the house that they all live in. He runs a house shows, like he throws concerts in the basement, which is really cool and relatable to me, because what I got to do is tell a little bit of my my own story of punk rock. But his story is also inspired by his story is kind of inspired by another tragic figure kind of in the punk rock scene out east. So at the risk, I don't want to give too much away there. And then there's one other character named Lester, and he lives in the 80s, but he's kind of like, he's living in this house, but he's like doesn't have a job, and his mom is basically paying rent for him, and he's like literally doing nothing with his life. But he's also kind of a brilliant music snob. And he's like a really funny character. He comes up with a scheme to like collect unemployment insurance, and he should be giving it to his mom to pay for rent, but he doesn't. He just keeps it and buys records for himself. So I don't think I'm giving too much away, but even like these stories span 100 years. Like each of these characters lives in this house for, like a different time period, but the same actual brick and wood and everything. Eventually, though, their stories overlap in a really interesting way where they end up helping each other, sometimes without knowing it, and then sometimes, like ghosts from the past literally come back and start haunting, the other characters and stuff. So
Interesting. Okay. So my next question, you kind of already answered it in there, but it was, did you take any inspiration from your actual life? You did in the sense of that punk rock character that's throwing concerts in the basement, but do you take any, little, what's the word I'm looking for? Little tidbits from being a teacher or a dad and come up with some of the realistic elements of the story?
yeah, there's a lot. So this is the weird part is, like I said, I wrote this book. It took me years. I tried to sell it. Nobody seemed interested. Then I kind of had this crisis of like, what do I do with this book? This is kind of depressing that nobody wants to publish it. I thought I would be publishable. And I think it hurt so much because I put so much of me in it, So like, there's a little bit of me in each of the characters. But there's also, I'm drawing from some other places too. So again, I used to live in this weird old house in the middle of this weird part of this tiny little town that had seen better days. So that was part of it. The main character from the 1800s who built the house is a dad who's got a really close relationship with his daughter, even though his relationship with his wife is a little strained. That part's not based on a true story. But I had just, like, our first son was born. And so I was channeling a lot of those really like vulnerable feelings of being a dad. Like, can I do this? Am I even, like, is this a thing that I'm cut out for and stuff? So that ends up in the story quite a bit. And I would say, I was not a cool kid in high school, so I got bullied a lot. That pops up a lot in the 2011 Becky's part of the story. There's one other thing that I drew from real life that's really important to the story. My wife had grandparents whose story looks a lot like the characters Barbara and her husband John, who fought in World War II. So my wife's grandma and grandpa, they were born like on the same day. And wow. Yeah, and then they met each other as teenagers. They got married just before he was shipped off to World War II. And then he was part of this thing called the Bataan Death March, where the Philippines fell, and they basically walked these American soldiers, miles and miles and miles, and lots of people died. He was basically a prisoner of war pretty much all through World War II. And meanwhile, his wife is at home just wondering if she's even still married or not, if she's like, if he's gone and out of her life. And so like that I pulled directly from their lives kind of as an homage to them, but also because it's like such a powerful story of like, what does it mean to find love and then also kind of have it taken away? And how do you become like a person on your own when all you've known is like being in love with another person and having that person by your side? So I pulled a lot from real life in this one. And I could probably get a little more personal, but for now, I think that shows that this is a lot. It's got a lot of me in it.
That's really deep, even as it is, and I'm sure when people read it, they're gonna hear some of these things and be able to read between the lines and see some of these things kind of coming out. As a writer, though, you go through a lot of revisions, I'm sure. And even after you get to the point where you're ready to publish the book, there's always these thoughts and ideas that hit you after the fact. I think of them as like those shower thoughts, like when you're in an argument with somebody and then you are taking a shower later and you're like, oh, I should have said that. That would have been a zinger. But are there any things about the book that you would tweak or change even now after it's published? Or are you happy with your work?
This is a cool question. The shower thoughts, by the way, totally relatable. That's how I come up with a lot of what I write, is I just sort of mellow out and just let my brain wander. I will say I did not want to self-publish. And I'm sure you can kind of hear it in how I've said I was really disappointed that I couldn't find a literary agent, couldn't find a publisher. And I do think, like, in retrospect, like, maybe I could have looked a little harder. I just sort of felt that defeat and kind of gave up. And I was like, all right, I'm going to pivot completely and write a totally different kind of book. I'm going to write young adult fiction. I'm going to write it for teenagers in a teenage voice. Friday Night at Humble House is pretty lofty, Like, I think I was trying to write important fiction. I think I was trying to write the great American novel, you know? And you know, I think it's why it took me so long to write it. Um, I think, and you know, boy, it was kind of nuts because I haven't read this, but I gave up on it, and you know, and I shelved it for like, I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years, something like that, and came when I pulled it back out, I was like, maybe I could self-publish this. If no one else is going to publish this, maybe I could figure out more about the self-publishing process by, you know, like by getting it out there. But it forced me to read it and read it and read it. And I read it like 3 more times in like 2 months. And what I realized is putting it aside and then coming back to it, I realized, yeah, this is a book that I'm really proud of. Like there's nothing I really want to change. However, like the kind of writing I do now is just like is way less forced. It's way less fancy. It's way less literary. I mean, I literally just right now I'm writing a book about like this teenager who moves to the Smoky Mountains and discovers that all the bees are eating people. And there's going to be some kind of freaky demon at the end that I'm still working out. But like, I mean, hello, I'm writing a book I'm calling Meat Bees. You know, like the last one I had a giant mouth that was trying to eat people. I mean, like it's kind of strange, weird, like fiction that's not the same as like layers of characters who connect with each other. It's, you know, the stuff I'm writing now is kind of half funny, half creepy, a little gory, kind of funny. Wait, maybe I said that. But the point is like, it's just a totally different vibe. So I think if I could go back, I did go back essentially, and I fixed the things about that book that I wanted to. But I am a little nervous about like moving ahead and writing more books and hopefully publishing them, and then being kind of like these light but spooky horror novels, and comparing it to this really serious adult novel that's got like, you know, that's got some serious themes in it and stuff. So I think I'm not really that worried about it. I don't think I would change anything, but having a lighter side and a darker side in my catalog, I mean, maybe that's a good thing though. Maybe that's not a thing I would regret. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you've talked about some of these other works that are coming soon, and I'm eager to hear some of these because I think they fit perfectly into our podcast's theme of all things haunt related. But without giving too much away from any of the works, and especially this one, could this book be the start of kind of like a series with the either, I don't know, like the same characters or even just a collection of stories, kind of like a Goosebumps R.L. Stine type of series?
Which one are you talking about? Like stuff I'm working on now, or like the Friday Night at Humble House one?
A little bit of both, because I mean, all of them have those elements of like you said, gore and comedy relief, but also a lot of horror to them.
Yeah. Well, I will say I went and visited my parents like the other day, and my dad was like, "Hey, I read your book," and I was like, "You did? Okay." I mean, like, not that I didn't expect him to, but like not a lot of people in my life read my stuff that I write. So I was very happy that he did. He's like, "Yeah, you could write a whole nother book of other characters." And I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to go back to the more serious, like heavy adult writing from Humble House. But, I mean, like there is room for more characters. There's decades that I haven't written about where people probably lived in that house. As far as the stuff I'm writing now, I will tell you, like R.L. Stine is my jam. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
when I was in third grade, I had every Goosebumps book and I read all of them. And I wasn't a huge reader, even in even through high school. It's kind of ironic that I'm an English teacher, and because I was not the most like obsessive reader when I was a kid, but I did love Goosebumps and I did have all the books. And I don't know if the things I'm writing now could be a series. One of the books I just wrote, which is about, like the kids who go to investigate some spooky things going on in their school. There's a lot more to it. It's called Behold, the Abysm, and it's got a very dramatic name because it's about this art school where 1 week, like they basically have a spirit week every year that's just horror themed. And it's like a tribute to this horror story that an alumni from the school wrote. So everyone in this weird creative art school they all dress up in like their goriest costumes, and they throw these crazy celebrations, and they try to, like, the opening scene of the book has like the seniors, like the freshmen walking through the empty school at midnight, and the seniors all jumping out and doing whatever they can to scare them. And it's really funny. Well, I mean, I guess I think it was funny. It was fun to read, or sorry, fun to write. But they end up discovering that some of the spooky stuff that's going on that week is actually real cosmic horror, And at the end, I don't know if there could be a sequel to that one. But I do like this idea that like teenagers have to figure out their own shit. And, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Teenagers have to figure out how to survive, how to get through. I mean, like, if you think of teens, like, getting through being a teenager is literally a kind of survival. It's like literally trying to be like literally trying to like go through a crazy part of your life where things go really fast and there's a problem every day. And somehow you end up on the other side better. And I guess that's how I feel like a lot of young adult novels are. So even though I don't think any of them, like this Behold the Abysm book, or like my Meat Bees book that I'm about a third of the way through at this point, like both of those books, I think they'd probably stand alone. But both of them kind of fit this vibe that I've been really enjoying writing, which is like young people having to deal with horror beyond, understanding, and getting out on the other side better off for it. So
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear some of those. But the next step, of course, especially in 2024, is to turn all of these works into movies, right? It seems like every book these days is getting turned into a series or a movie. Which one of your works, horror or not even, would you want to have converted for the big screen?
I don't know. All of my books, you write these things,
It's
and
so
you're
hard to
like,
choose, right?
I know, and all of them, like, I'd be like I would have fun picturing as a movie. So like my one book, that was a young adult book, called I'm Not a Meme, is basically just this kid who's reasonably popular, like not really popular, but he hangs out with some other kids who are kind of popular, and they take a really ugly picture of him and turn him into a meme. And then he instantly goes viral, and everyone knows the meme kid. And they decide to go on a road trip to sell t-shirts of his ugly face on this meme to try to make some money. And it's just like a stupid scheme that makes no sense, that you could only dream up when you're a teenager. And I think a movie like that would be so much fun, like just a buddy road trip comedy. And I also, at the risk of getting too, I don't want to like fall down this rabbit hole, but like, I'm a teacher. I see my students in my classes all the time. And I know that like the boys in my class don't like to read, like they just haven't had that, like they haven't had the bug bite them in the same way. Not, I mean, and I'm stereotyping. Obviously not all the boys in my class are a monolith, right? But I do think that, the publishing industry is doing a lot to show girls and kids of like all over the gender spectrum like themselves, and they're trying intentionally to do a better job at this. And I don't know, I mean, like, there's not as many books for boys unless they're about baseball, or unless they're about basketball, or unless you're the main characters in a gang. Like there's like no there's no books about kids who just like boys have to deal with crappy friendships, and boys have to deal with like relationship issues that are complicated, and boys have to figure out what to do with their lives or what jobs they want and stuff. So I kind of like, my book, I Am Not a Meme, about the character who goes on a road trip, tries to sell t-shirts with his face on it, feels really uncomfortable with being a meme, but goes with it anyway, and kind of comes out the other side having figured himself out a bit. I think that'd be a really fun movie, and I think it would be the kind of movie that shows that boys are more complicated than baseball and mullets and making fart jokes and stuff. Although there are a lot of fart jokes in that book. So, I don't know.
That's perfect. I will say, in sports media and broadcasting, all the stuff that I do, the majority of the reading I do is mostly articles, trades, schedules, all that kind of stuff. It's not sitting down and reading a novel anymore. And I'm guilty because I don't find time enough in my life to do that kind of stuff. But I would, and I think there are books out there that I would enjoy, and especially some of your works really piqued my interest when I first even heard about it through, I think it was a Facebook link that John had reposted. So yeah, I mean, some of this stuff sounds cool, and my hope is just I have the free time to do stuff like this because, like you said, boys and a lot of guys are just out playing sports, watching the movie version of these books, which is where kind of that question was directed. But
For
you
sure.
had mentioned horror movies in your email. Do you have a favorite or any traditions around the time of Halloween of what movies you watch?
I would not say this is the part about having kids that's tough, is that my oldest is just starting to be old enough to like watch good horror movies. And my wife, who grew up like as a teenager watching like every horror movie under the sun, is now like, I don't really want to watch anymore. And so I'm sitting here just waiting to be able to like start watching movies again. But I am like, so my parents did this thing where we watched RoboCop when I think I was 4 years old, and I had a lot of questions for them. There's like people melting in acid, there's torsos being shot off, and
Yep.
like it's a pretty gnarly movie. I still remember it pretty vividly. I mean, it's not like I was freaked out by it. But I remember the feeling like we went to the park right afterwards, and I remember the feeling like we probably shouldn't have watched that movie. And I was 4 or something ridiculous like that. And when I was in third grade, I'm not sure why something happened like where like Kenner started putting out like aliens toys. And I was like, "What's that, Dad?" And he's like, "I got a movie for you." And so for some reason I skipped Alien and I started with Aliens. And that's
I
my
think a
favorite
lot of
movie
people
of.
do.
Yeah, I mean, and I think my dad was thinking Aliens has got a lot more action. You'll like it more, third grader. And I mean, in retrospect, I don't know that. I mean, I certainly have not let my third grader watch Aliens. I mean, well, my wife, it's probably my wife, and she's got better judgment than me on this, admittedly. Um, but yeah, I watched the hell out of Aliens, and then I watched Alien. I had like the double like VHS to watch. Like I remember my parents going to like a New Year's Eve party, and like we're gonna be up until midnight partying, and I'm like, I got Aliens. I'm just gonna keep watching it on loop until midnight. And they're like, okay, go ahead. And so yeah, Alien and Aliens is my jam, and kind of like, I liked Alien 3. Alien Resurrection was fine. I remember seeing that in the theater when I was a kid, but the Alien franchise is my jam. And then by extension, Predator is like all of those weird alien action movies are awesome. And even though like I was trying to explain to my son like probably a couple nights ago that like Predator 2 has got some moments in it where like maybe we shouldn't watch that one yet. But then like I liked The Predator. I liked the Alien versus Predator movies. I really loved Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I'm trying to convince my wife to let me bring my oldest son to see the new Alien
Yeah.
movie, Romulus, next month.
Yep.
And but it's weird because usually we preview that stuff before, so it's hard being a horror fan who has kids. Um, but like, then my son, is like, "Can we watch A Quiet Place?" And I'm like, "I think so." And so we watched A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2 last weekend. And he's like, "Can we watch The Thing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Maybe because that one's pretty wild. And so anyway, I guess like at the end, I like all kinds of horror movies, but I'm less in the tradition of like Friday the 13th or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street. Like those movies to me, it's not like they're bad movies, but to me, there's something about like space, monsters, not evil incarnate, but like something, like there's some possibility that, that's not to say that aliens could happen, right? But there's some possibility there that something, I don't know how to explain it, but I think that's part of the reason why I like Alien and Aliens, is that I don't think anyone's really going to attack me in my nightmares, or chase me around. But I do think there's the possibility of something unknown that's more scary to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and as you said, that new Alien Romulus movie is coming out. I saw the coming attraction for it, and I was thinking when I wrote this question for you, I had a teacher back at Harper College who was a film teacher, and I took a night class, and I can't remember his name, but he had a son who was real little and not ready for any of that horror genre yet. But the nice thing is, I took the class in the fall, so come October, he picked movies that would fit the curriculum and the time period that we were studying as far as the movies.
Yeah.
And it lined up perfectly because we ended up watching, I mean, we were in the early works of film. So we were watching films like Dracula, the original, and all the Bela Lugosi stuff and all the classic ones that I think even if you have a little one, could still kind of watch it because back in that day it wasn't all the blood and gore and all that
for
kind
sure.
of stuff. And then even as you mentioned, like the Friday the 13th and all that stuff, of course they're the classics, but at this point, especially with special effects and how they are today, they're a little dated. You watch,
Yep.
I think is it the original Friday the 13th and some of the stop motion and the claymation stuff. It's like, yeah, right, yeah, it's not super believable, but
Yeah.
as soon as they get to that age, I had recommended. He's actually a previous guest of ours on the podcast over in Oak Lawn. There's a house called Spirits on Sproat that they decorate, and instead of decorating to scare you, they decorate it like it's kind of like a museum. They've got all these wax figurines and self-made figurines. Eric does a great job of building these creatures and making them come to life. And you name the horror villain, he has them,
That's so
like
cool.
everything from the new movies, like I forget what the name, it was the baby face killer from Happy Death Day or whatever that
Right. Yeah,
that one was,
yeah.
back to Ash from Evil Dead with the
Sweet.
chainsaw hand
Yep.
stuff. So that one was a good one. I don't know if they ever ended up going, but that's always one that if you've got the little kids and you want, especially if you want to teach them the history of all that kind of stuff, that's one I always recommend. But going into the real aspect, I am a skeptic, and you told me that you haven't had any paranormal experiences firsthand.
Yeah.
I haven't either. We did a little bit of going around to, like, we've done Bachelor's Grove Cemetery at night and ghost hunting, so to speak. But have you done a lot of paranormal related activities or studied any bit of that sort? Do you have any fun stories or places that maybe listeners would want to check out?
I think so, but like I said in my email, I don't want to call myself I guess I'm a skeptical believer. Like I have the Fox Mulder I want to believe poster in my classroom of the UFO, like straight up, like, and that kind of I think classifies how I am, but I'm also not a doof, you know what I mean? Like I'm not willing to buy like any joke. I have studied a lot of like the history of paranormally kind of stuff because I think it's really fascinating. I've read a lot of books, a lot of nonfiction. I did during COVID read a ton of like 70s UFO, like cheesy UFO books, like old paperbacks that I got for like $1 from Half Price Books and stuff. But I have read a lot, and I've actually read some books that I think are really compelling and fascinating, and they offer cool theories. And so I think that with Ghost Hunters, the TV show, kind of launched me down a path of being like really interested in like paranormal stuff. And of course, like the first movie I was ever obsessed with, way before Alien, was Ghostbusters. So like,
there you go.
yeah, I mean, I think it all kind of plays into it. I will say that I've done a little bit of ghost hunting, but nothing too serious. When I was a teenager, though, the big place for us to go was in Barrington, Illinois. There's this cemetery along Ela Road that's got quite a lot of stories. Yeah. Ela Road's sort of the one in our area.
We have done Ela Road. I always forget about that just because nothing's ever happened. But
yeah,
it's a white cemetery, but we have not gone in because that is one that has cameras these days. 2024.
Well, no, they had them back when I was in high school too. Because yeah, I mean, if not cameras, then just well hidden squad cars. Because our couple of times we stuck in there to do, I mean, it's not like we were going to vandalize anything. I think we might have tried to like do a seance, which was really just us. I don't even know what we were going to do, lighting candles, whatever. But we always got busted by the cops, and it was all in good fun. My wife used to go and break in. She was like the kind of kid, like in the early 2000s, that would break into like abandoned mansions that were haunted, and they'd record it like Blair Witch style. And I don't know why they've got incriminating evidence of themselves breaking and entering on private property, but I mean that's the kind of stuff we did as kids. Since then, like I think one of the more fun things I did is my brother. I have a twin brother, so when I was getting married, he had to put together my bachelor party, and he knows I don't drink, and we weren't going to do anything that was like too stupid bro-ish for our party. So he's like, let's just do a haunted tour of Chicago. So he hooked us up with a company and a tour guide. I still follow the tour guide on social media. He's written a couple good haunted Chicago books too. And yeah, we just went to where the St. Valentine's massacre was, and a few other places where there were fires and a lot of people died. I remember that there were a couple of good haunted stories in like these restaurants and stuff, but they ended up becoming like, one of them was a tattoo parlor. So, and then there was another one that was what was that? What was that bar called? I'm flaking on it now. But like a good like punk alternative kind of club. Liars Club? Is it the Liars Club? We went there, and
That sounds familiar.
yeah, nothing funky happened, but it was really fun to just be in these places that felt like really strange and really cool, where there was history, like a lot, and obviously I ended up writing this book that was kind of about like being in a place that's got history, and so I love being in places where you can just sort of feel the history around you. And even if it's a spooky, dark history, whether or not you're feeling any paranormal stuff or anything, it's pretty cool. I will say one more thing. I teach at McHenry High School, and I teach newspaper. So I have these very nerdy newspaper kids that I like to hang out with. They're kind of adjacent with these broadcast kids. Sometimes we get some yearbook kids, but I'm kind of, with a couple of other teachers, and John included, I'm kind of king dork with the rest of them. But one thing we started doing is we went ghost hunting, and it started as an exercise of like, we heard that the old freshman campus is haunted, and that's where I teach most of my classes. And I'm like, all right, let's investigate. And they did a little investigating, because there's like, every school's got those stories about the dead janitor who's haunting things.
Yep.
It turns out there's a janitor who died at our school. Yeah, like he had a heart attack, and they like on a ramp, like a loading dock kind of thing.
Wow.
And it was the day of like the funeral for a principal too, who had just recently died. And so like we started getting this story, and we were starting to put it together and confirm it. And we found like the obituaries in the yearbooks, and we found the obituaries in the newspapers. And so, and like the other thing is like they called the ghost like this one name, George. And so like we were hearing stories that like if lights turned off by themselves, the janitors would be like, sorry, George, or thanks, George, or and it turns out the guy George, who was a janitor at the school, died, but it wasn't the one who died in the school. It was another guy. So now there's two janitors.
Oh.
And so anyway, my students uncovered like this pretty complicated story that was really funny. So we go ghost hunting once a year. I just like let them run around the school anywhere they want to, essentially. Some of us take it more seriously than others, but every year about one or two things happen that really truly freaks everyone out. And I'm never in the room when it happens. I'm like the curse, right? But like the kids will come back, and they'll have like a spirit box, and they'll be like, the spirit box said something directly to one of the kids by name. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. Or they'll be like in the room adjacent to where the ghost died, and they'll be like, this room is making all this noise, and we don't know why, and we're done. We're out of here. We're not going back in there. And I'm like, okay. And so that's just more for fun. And in fact, all of my paranormal stuff has really been just for fun. I'm just waiting. I will tell you one more stupid story, and you can tell me to shut up if I'm just rambling too much.
No, that's what we're here for.
I will say the only thing that ever really happened to me that was paranormal was probably not. But I grew up in Fox River Grove, which is on the train line from, it's a very small little town.
Yeah.
I think when I was in elementary school, middle school, my graduating class had about 70 kids in it. One time I was at the middle school, it's a pretty old middle school, and I was there for a Cub Scout thing, and I went to the bathroom, and this is like the kind of school that looks like the prop of like, I don't know, like Saved by the Bell. I mean, it literally looked like an old school, like a 1950s school in the 1990s, you know? So I went in this bathroom and I went to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I heard this uproarious laughter, like a man's laughter just filled the bathroom, and I flipped the crap out. Like I had enough time to look underneath the stalls to see if there was a person in there, and then I didn't see anyone. And I just ran, man. I was freaked out. In retrospect, could a kid, like an older kid, been playing a joke on me? Yeah, probably. It was a Cub Scout thing, right? But I remember the feeling, and that's I think the funky part is like the feeling you feel is different than feeling freaked out because like an animatronic clown jumped out at you from like while you're trick-or-treating. It's like a different, it was like something deeper, and I think that was the reason I carry it with me. So yeah, I seek out haunted places. We go on and do haunted, like ghost hunty kind of things. We don't take it that seriously. Oh shoot. I guess I won't bore you with any more stories, but my brother and I go and visit each other. You know, for example, every year we meet somewhere, and we usually try to find a haunted hotel. And we have had a couple nights where the haunted hotel thing has gotten weird. But nothing that's been so convincing that we're like, oh yeah, we saw the ghost last night. And so I'm waiting. I've spent my whole life waiting for that moment where the ghost comes out and you know, wants to tell me its secrets or something, you know?
We had another friend of mine through media come on almost about a year ago now. And he told a story. He goes by DJ Nobody. Is his he goes around and DJs, but he told a story of when he was driving in his dad's cop car, and I want to say that was near Fox River Grove too, but I can't remember the exact location, and it had something to do with like Olympic Fields or Olympia something, and I want to say it was around there. But I've reached out to him and I asked him where that was. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to my own podcast and see where exactly that location was. But
yeah,
other than that, we have done Ela Road, like you said, White Cemetery. And in fact, when we did do it, we typically when we go around and see a bunch of different decorated houses and haunted houses during the season, it's usually Indigenous Peoples Day, that Monday that we go up and do the north suburbs. And we'll usually hit up John Albert and see what he's doing because we're going to be in his neck of the woods. For sure. And there's a bunch of houses up that way. But there was one time we were driving through. It was myself and two of my friends in the car, and the fog just rolled in on that day. And now we've told stories. In fact, there will be one in this episode about when the fog rolled in on Halloween in 2022, and we were decorated. We were doing our own home haunt, running around, scaring people, and that was phenomenal. But driving down Ela Road on a Monday, that is a holiday, but nobody else is out on the roads, and the fog rolls in was quite the experience. It was really cool. And it was at the end of the night. We had seen a bunch of very cool houses up there. You're teaching up in McHenry, so I would imagine you're not too far from there. Have you and the family gotten a chance to go out and visit any decorated houses in your area?
Yes. There's one. Okay, so like there's the one big one by us. Shoot. I see I'm so 31? Bad. No. Oh. This one's tucked behind Fox River Grove near where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
But I'm so bad at remembering the names of these. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can Google it. Because anytime I'm like on the spot, I'm just so bad at remembering names.
There's a lot of haunts that are in our group. Oh, you got it?
I do, yeah. It's called Mac Manor, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
Yes, I have. In fact, that's one of the ones that we have not been to, but I have not seen them on the lists recently. I don't know if they're still doing their thing.
They do. Yeah.
Okay,
but so I wouldn't call them there's a haunted house so much. It's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a drive-through kind of thing. Although they
Right.
do
That's what I've
have,
been told.
yeah, but what they do is, so they do it during Christmas and during Halloween. The Halloween is obviously way cooler. Christmas is
Yeah.
still pretty impressive, but in Halloween they like, it's a bunch of inflatable stuff, and it's like so many inflatables that you kind of wonder if they're just stealing them from people's, I shouldn't say this, like from people's yards. They're not, they're using donations to buy new ones, but it's cool because like you can tune in the radio, so they've got creepy music
Oh,
playing.
okay.
They've got like these crazy dragon things blowing like 10-foot long streams of fire like over your car.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
they've got like cool things projected on the walls and the windows and stuff. And if you turn your lights on or off, I can't remember which one. If you turn your lights on, I think that's the sign that like you've got kids in the car, don't freak you out. Don't freak
Oh,
us out.
okay.
But if you don't, if you turn them off, between all of the crazy inflatable stuff, there's dudes running around with the like, I mean, they're not like super scary, like gory. I mean, all you need is a good Grim Reaper mask and to sneak up on this, like you're so busy driving. It's on this driveway in this private property. There's inflatable things moving everywhere. There's like coffins opening up and like Chucky dolls like with knives in it like popping out and flames and stuff, and you're so busy just looking at everything that when some dude jumps on your car and starts banging on it, it's like you shit your pants. It's like so freaky. So we've always gone, our kids love it, so we never do the do it where we can get scared, but there's the potential for a lot of really good scares there just because like it's not a normal haunted house. You like almost don't even
Yeah.
expect it. So that's the big one for us, and that one's always worth doing, and it's free. And it's easy to give them donations because they do such a killer job and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were huge in 2021. Of course, a lot of stuff like that was because, COVID, people couldn't get out of the car. So there was a lot of car drive-through events. And I believe it was 2020 or it was 2021 that we tried to go through theirs. And I think we just missed it because I think they closed down at like 10 o'clock or whatever night
Yes,
we were out. We
probably, yeah.
just missed it by like 5 minutes or something like that. But it's always been on my list. But I hadn't either I haven't paid attention or I haven't seen it on our lists in the last couple of years. So I'll have to put that down for this year. We at Voodoo on Vass are taking a year off of decorating our own. So we're going to be going out and seeing everything this year and enjoying to the max
Yeah.
the entire holiday season. But yeah, no, up in there were a couple in McHenry. Mostly the ones that I was talking about are up in like Algonquin, Lake in the Hills, kind of that area. But
Yep.
yeah, Fox River Grove has some sneaky ones too. So
Yeah.
that'll have to get thrown on the list. But yeah, I got nothing else for you. Thank you so much for your time and all the craziness. Where can they find you, all the fans, and then also where can they go out and get your book?
Well, we'll start if you just go to DaneErbach.com. That's DaneErbach, all one word.com. I have my really dumb website that I slapped together because I felt obligated to have some kind of, be in control of my online presence, and everything to buy Humble House is there on the website, along with some of my horror stories. Like, weirdly enough, I started writing horror last summer, like for real, and not just speculative, ghosty kind of stuff, but like straight up trying to scare people. So there's links to a couple of horror stories that I just published this month, honestly. They've been a year in the works, I mean, like I wrote them a year ago, but it's taken me a year to get them published. And one of them's a podcast too. So it's like performed. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, that was pretty fun. I've got a couple more stories that I'm shopping around too. So like, if you end up listening to this episode in a year or two, there might even be a couple more stories up. And I did get, like, at the risk, I'm not going to say too much and jinx it, but I did get a really exciting email last week about publishing one of my horror novels.
All right,
So like there
congratulations.
might be another book.
Well,
I
really,
mean, I
I'll
haven't
knock
signed
on
the
wood.
contract
Let
yet.
me knock on wood.
But I will say that like there could be another book coming within the year, which would be really exciting, and that one would be more straightforward. But DaneErbach.com is the best place to go. There's links to Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all that from there.
Sweet, awesome, man. And of course, I will let you know when this episode is out. It is the July episode. Man, summer is flying by.
I know,
So
man.
it'll be out within the next day or two. Although, of course, with how late we're recording and all the craziness of my July schedule, mostly people are going to be listening in August. But
That's fine with me, man.
that's even closer to the Halloween season. And like I said, if we take our trip up to some of those houses, I'll definitely contact you and let you know ahead of time. And this time we'll pull John out of his house and get him to come with us. So,
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is no one, I haven't done a lot of book promo or anything like that. So just the fact that you're, wanting to have a real conversation and just hang out and stuff means a lot. So I appreciate it.
well, perfect. Yeah, everybody go out and like he said, go to those links and get yourself a copy of Friday Night at Humble House and any of his other works too that are there. So, Dane, thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah. Have a good one.